Welcome back. This is Astro Clare Technology with another video. Today we are going over web development fundamentals. We're going to go over HTML, CSS, and then we're going to dive into a little bit of JavaScript. We're going to move pretty fast, and we're pretty much going to make a very basic web page to get your hands and feet wet in a little bit of web development coding. With that being said, if you haven't followed and watched our Visual Studio Code video on YouTube, please go ahead. We'll put the link in the description below so you can go watch that. And pretty much it just basically sets you up to have your Visual Studio Code environment the same that we have here so you can follow along properly. So go do that if you haven't already. And to begin, we're going to go over here to our file. Once you open up Visual Studio Code, click File up top, go to Open Folder, and you're going to make a folder, right? So I'm going to make a folder and I'm just going to say training. Name it whatever you want. I'm going to click enter. I'm going to select that folder, and then it'll open up here in Visual Studio Code. And so what you have here is in your Explorer section, you have a training folder that is now open. So in order to continue moving forward with some web development, let's click on New File right here next to the word training. And we're going to make a index.html file. Push enter. And the reason why we're going to name it index.html and not like home.html or contact or anything like that is because every browser is going to always look for an index.html file before it can open up anything. Now, there are ways around that, but for your standard practice, please always have an index.html file as your base document to always start off with so you can have a proper structure in your documentation. Next, Visual Studio Code has a really cool like hotkey and or abbreviated key, and that is HTML semicolon 5. Go ahead and type that and then just press enter. And you see that it gives you this basic layout for a document. Just going over this document really quick, you have your doc type HTML, which is telling the browser or editor the document that you're working with, which is an HTML document. Then you have your HTML element, right, which is here and at the bottom. And we have the language set to English. This is really important because whenever you're working with HTML documents, you must have this element wrapped around everything else so your entire web page can form and work properly. Next, we have the head document or element. I'm sorry, we have the head element. The head element is what's going to contain your title or your tab information. This is where we will link our CSS or cascading style sheet. We can also link our JavaScript. You will also be able to do a meta description, which we would use for our SEO content. And this is going to be where we describe our website a little bit, help us boost up a little bit more on SEO ranking. Before we proceed a little further, I want to talk about the body element. Although your head element has very, very important information, everything that goes into your web page itself outside of the title must go inside of your body section. Please always remember that. There are individuals out there who can forget, and you get a little excited and carried away, and it's easy to put information in between the closing of the head section and before the body, depending on how you start and where you are. So just make sure you put everything inside of this body element. We're also going to create a style sheet. So go over here to new file, and we're going to put style.css. Just push enter. We've just created a style sheet, but go back to your HTML document and we'll go make a space in here. And what we need to do is link our HTML document to the style sheet. Since the style sheet is in the same exact folder and not another folder path, you can simply go link semicolon CSS and push enter. And as you see, style.css is already in there, and the relationship is a style sheet. So always remember that hotkey because it's going to help you a little bit in the future. But also, if you were to have your style sheet inside of another folder, then you would have to do a / the folder name / / and then the style sheet's name. So as I said before, since we just have it out in the open, that's not anything to worry about. So go ahead and do a quick save. Now our style sheet is linked to our HTML document. Before we move any further with style sheet, let's start getting into some coding with our HTML document. So with our HTML document, we always have pretty much a basic layout that we may have in mind, or you might want to draw out and design. Whatever the case is, you want to make sure that you are comfortable and you already know what type of web design style you're looking with going with. So for us, we're just going to do a very simple header and navigation menu, a body section to hold a little bit of text and maybe some other elements and documents that we'll work on throughout time, and then a footer section as well. And that's why I said we're going to get into a little bit of JavaScript, because I want this to be a nice project that you're able to continue to work on and actually have on your portfolio and your resume to actually help you get real life experience. With that being said, let's go ahead and go down here to the go live or the run the live server down here. Like I said, if you followed along with our last video on setting up Visual Studio Code, you would know how to do this and how it's there. If you are running Visual Studio Code and you don't have time to go check out that video, just go install live server by Ritwik Day. This here, install this, and then you'll see the go live button down there. So I'm going to hit that button, and as you see, we have a document and our new tab, and we have this address here. That's just our live server running, but you see we have the index.html in there, and that's the file that we're currently working on. So what we're going to do is we're going to start adding a little bit of information and some skeleton to our website, right? So to start off, let's type in the word header. So Visual Studio Code has a few things already in store for us. It has header, it has aside, and then it has main, and then it has footer, which are all the things that I said we're going to use. Now, obviously, you see, as we add all of these elements in here, we're not seeing anything on the web page. That's because we haven't styled these yet or added any text inside of it. So if we want, let's go to footer. We could type the word footer without pushing enter and do a quick save. You'll see the word footer pop up. We could do the same thing for header. Header is going to pop up. You could do the same thing for aside. Aside will pop up. So what we're going to do is we're just going to focus on our header really quick. And we're going to add a little bit of style to it. Not a little bit of style, but a little of HTML code and markup to it. So what we're going to do is start off with a heading, which is our H1. Headings go up all the way to H6, and we'll see a little bit of the difference here. I'll show you. And we're just going to add our name. So I'm going to add Astro, Clare Technology inside of that heading. Click save. Now, if you were to change this to a H6, you will see a significant difference in the heading size. Even if you were to do H4, you still will see a pretty big, significant difference in sizing there. So let's stick with H1. We're going to add our name, and then we can go down to H3, and we can add our occupation. So I'm just going to say software engineering company. Click save. That's simple. If you want, if you're not into software development or any type of engineering or anything like that, by all means, just put whatever occupation that you do have. If you're a baker, if you're a photographer, a med student, right? A portfolio can be used for many different things. So once we're done with that, let's go ahead and we'll add a nav or a navigation menu. We're going to do that. Go inside of here, and the first thing that we want to do is add an unordered list inside of our navigation. Go ahead and push enter, and if you want to do a quick save, you'll see nothing is in there yet. That's good. We don't want anything in there. The next thing that we're going to do is a list item, or LI for list item. Let's do an asterisk we'll do 3 because we want 3 list items. And then let's do a greater than sign. And that's pretty much saying I want 3 list items, and inside of these list items, which is the greater than sign, inside of these list items, I want a semicolon link, which is saying inside of each list item, let's add a link. Then we're going to add some curly brackets, and we'll just add the word link inside the curly brackets. And if you see in this abbreviation here, everything that we typed in is expressing itself here. So we have a list item, 3 of them, right? So we see 3 list items with the a semicolon link reference inside of there, which is pretty much how you refer to an outside link or a directory inside of your folder path. And then inside the semicolons is what we're going to have displayed as the regular text inside of the a reference element. So once you got that, push enter, click save, and you'll see your 3 link items have showed up here. So let's go and remove the HTTP semicolon and / section here. The reason being is if you go here and you click this link, you get a blocked or an error message there. We don't want that error message. So we're going to get rid of those, click save, and put a hashtag or # in there. And that's just going to cause us to be able to click it as much as we want and not cause any problems. So let's keep it like that for a minute. So right now we have our header, our navigation menu with our elements inside of there. Next, we're going to do our main content, right? Or I'll do like a main section is what we can call it. So I'm just going to give this section a name or give it the section element. And I'm going to do aside. And then I'm going to do, I'm going to do main. I'm going to save. It's not much going on here. We're just going to leave as is for now. And then lastly, we're going to do a footer, right? And then what we can do in here is just add some text. And what if I were you, I would just put your name. And then if you want, we're going to do something even cooler. Let's do a ampersand sign, the word copy, push enter, and then let's do the year, right? This is going to be your website. You're completely developing it yourself. This is part of your software engineering company. So you get to copyright your own web page, right? You're going to make it however you want. And obviously this is going to be free to use from you guys from Astro Clare Technology. So no worries there, right? So now we have our footer, we have our section, we have our navigation menu, and we have our header. Now we can get started on a little bit of our cascading style sheet because it's going to take a little bit of information to add inside of here in order to keep going. But for now, we're going to just learn our basic fundamentals of HTML and CSS. So far, you've learned how to make multiple containers inside of HTML. You've learned about headings. You learned how to make a navigation menu using unordered list and adding list items. You've learned how to make sections and properly assign different sections inside of them using the aside and main elements. And you've learned how to properly assign your footer. The next thing that we're going to do is add a little bit of cascading style sheet to our header section. So when you go into your style.css document, the first thing we want to do is remove some of the built-in styling element or styling attributes that are already built inside of HTML and CSS. And we're going to start with that by going for our root directory. And we do that by initiating our element or root element with the asterisk sign. And in CSS, you want to use the curly brackets to place in your attributes inside of here. So since we're running a live server, everything that we do inside of our cascading style sheet is going to update in real time, which is beautiful. That's what we want because it's going to help our development process go a whole lot faster. So let's start off by adding the word margin and set our margin to the number 0. Push save, and you see instantly our web page kind of shrunk a little bit with our elements and containers. That's what we want. Next, we're going to go to padding. We're going to do the same thing, and we're going to set that to 0 as well, and click save and watch what happens next. You see everything kind of shifted to the left as far as it could go because of the nature of the elements themselves. We want to keep it like that. Next, we're going to change our box sizing to border box, and we really want to do this because it's going to help setting our borders for each element. They're going to be able to align a lot more properly as we go on throughout our web development. Next, we're going to go for our body element. So what we just did is with our root directory, we changed everything inside of here. Next, we're going for our body element. So what specifics do we want for the body? Well, one thing that we want, and this is going to help with aligning our elements and how we want our design structure to be, is we want our height to be set to 100 view height or 100% of the current view. So if we save that, you don't really see much, but what we can do is we could change the background color to something really quick just to see how it looks. I'm going to choose antique white because it can change just a little bit. And if you see, it has like this yellow tint now. Now, if we were to change our view height on our body, you won't really see much because it's still the body, and that's why the background is there. But let's go ahead and start with our header element, and I'm going to show you where your view height is going to make a big difference. So let's start off with a comment inside of CSS. That's going to be a / and asterisk, and we'll say this is the header styling section. I am going for a simple header design. Now, this type of comment is acceptable because this is just you practicing and learning some of your fundamentals. But once you get into a better position with software development or web development, you want to make sure you have a more specific design. So what exactly are you trying to do, right? Here, like I said, we're just going to work on a very simple header design, and we do that by calling out the header element. We do a curly bracket, and let's do something very, very easy. I'm going to move this down a little bit. We see that our body has a height of 100 view height. I'm going to set the header to a height of 5 view height. I'm going to save it. I'm going to change the background color to, I'm going to do dark sea green. I like dark sea green. It's a really nice color. I'm going to go back and change the background on the body to white. I'm just going to change it to the word white instead. And as you see, it looks like we may have to change our header size a little bit just because of the text itself. So I'm actually going to change that to 10 view height. So one thing I want you to really pay attention to is this. We've set our body to a height of 100 view height. We've subtracted 10 of the view height for the header, which leaves us with 90 view height for everything else. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I want that to really stick out to you. Next, we are going to do something. We're going to align our text, or do a text align to the center so it can center inside of the header element. Do enter, and as you see, our text is now centered. Another thing I'm going to do is change the letter spacing to 1 pixel. So between each letter, I want an extra pixel of spacing in there. And then I'm going to do some word spacing of about 3 pixels. I'm going to do an enter. And actually, I might go 5. Okay. And then that's pretty much it for our header section. Next, we're going to work on our navigation element. So in our navigation element, there's something that I want you to really pay attention to as we proceed forward with this. We have a navigation element, and then we have an unordered list element as well. What we're planning to do is align our unordered list element in the middle of our navigation element, and Then we're going to center our list items in the middle. Now, to pull something like that off, we have to make sure that our code is very articulate and very specific. And one thing as well we're going to have to do is make sure we set that our unordered list to the same height as our navigation list so that our list items can align properly. So let's start with that. Let's go make another comment, right? We'll say this is the navigation styling section. I am going for a centered navigation menu. So let's go nav. And I like to start off the nav with a view height, and then I always like to give it a background color. So we can do dark sea green, but I'm gonna go just a little bit off color. So now I know that my menu is 100% view height, or 100% view width, and 5% view height, or 5 view height. That makes me a lot comfortable. And I'm going to set this to a display of flex. So when you do a display flex, pretty much it stretches all the elements out across the board, or across that element that it's inside of. So it's going to flex the unordered list to spread out evenly, but this is the only element inside of here. So what can we do? We can justify the content of this into the center of the element itself. So watch what happens next. It puts it in the center. If we didn't have it at flex and we did a block, you'll see that it'll go back over there. So we want to flex it appropriately across the entire element and then center it inside of there. Then we also want to align the items inside of the center. Now, when you align or justify the content in the center, that justifies the center of the x-axis. When you align the items in the center, instead of justifying the content, when you align the items in the center, that aligns it on the y-axis. So that's going to give it a little more center. So if we go back and we save it, you'll see there's a little bit of space up there, and there's a little bit of white space inside of the link word on the bottom. If we do center, you'll see that it kind of pushes up just a little bit. That's how you know your items are aligned in the center. Very, very particular and specific in detail, but it goes a long way. The next thing we're going to do is go for our unordered list, and we're pretty much going to take the same code here and duplicate it. So you can go ahead and just copy and paste that code and remove the background color. Go to save, but instead of just being nav, we're going to do nav unordered list. And when you click save, watch what happens. It's because we've done the same exact thing. Instead of justify content center though, we're going to do a space between and then do save. Then we're going to change our width to let's do 50 view width. So that'd be 50 VW. Do save, and you see we got this big old space in between here now. If you shorten that view width at all, obviously it shortens the space in between it shortens the space in between the links. So let's play around a little bit. Whatever you think is going to be more comfortable for you to use in styling your navigation menu, go ahead. By all means, you can tweak it however you want. Let's go ahead and do a save. Next, we're going to go for the list items themselves because we're done with our styling and we've already aligned it into the middle. We mitigated another 5 or 6 lines worth of code with trial and error by just copying and pasting with what we already done. So let's go here and we're going to go for each of our list items. Even though there's 3 list items and 3 links inside of here, we only need to call it out for 1 item. And by that, I mean, let's go for a new line. We'll do nav unordered list item. We don't need to do it 3 times. We only need to do it once. Let's add a curly bracket. And then what we're going to do is remove these horrendous dots right here. So list style type is going to be set to disk automatically, and that's what this is. But we're going to set it to none and click save. Next, we're going to go for our list item links, or a reference here. So what do? We do nav unordered list item a, and then we're going to do curly bracket, and then now we get to change our font. We can take away this ugly text decoration. We can make it uppercase, lowercase, whatever we need to do. We're going to style these link items, the references inside of the link items separately. So the first thing I want to do is remove that horrendous text decoration. So I'm going to set text decoration to none, push enter, save, and you see that ugly line is now going from under there. That's great. Now I want to set the text transform to uppercase. This is going to make each letter an uppercase letter, and I like that style personally. If you don't like it, there's many other things that you can do. You can do a capitalize, or you can do a lowercase, and that's initially what it was at first. But for this, I'm going to set it to uppercase. I'm going to add a little bit of letter spacing, and I'm going to do 1 pixel again, and then I'm going to change the color. So initially with links, your color of your text are always going to be set to like this purplish type of color. For this video, we're just going to set it to black, and then we're going to try something really cool, and we're going to do a nav unordered list item a semicolon hover, and then we're going to do a curly bracket. So this is going to change every single time we decide to hover over one of our list items. This is going to change whatever we decide to change. So I'm going to do color. When we hover, it's going to be white, and then I'm going to do text decoration underline 1 pixel solid, or solid, and then white, and save. So now every time we hover, we're going to have an underline on our text, and it's going to highlight to a white color. All right. So next, what we can do is look at what we've done here. We've took our elements, we've added them into our CSS styling sheet, and we've styled them appropriately. We've also taken our navigation menu and we styled our unordered list and list item appropriately. So you've learned how to make an unordered list and turn it into a navigation menu using the nav element. If you've learned how to use a header, create a header and style it inside of your styling sheet. You've also learned about the fundamentals of your HTML document and how to properly structure it. You've also learned how to use a special, I like to call it like a special or specialty type of cascading style sheet attribute, which is the hover attribute, and that's with hovering over our links here to add a little bit of action inside of our web page to make it a little more cool. So before we get into styling our section, what we want to do is take our footer and let's stretch our footer down to the bottom of the web page. I like to do this a special type of way. I'm going to add a comment really quick, /asterisk. I'm going to say this is the footer styling section. I am looking to place the footer at the bottom of the web page and make it stay there. So do that comment, click save, and you see none of your comments in your CSS sheet show up here. That's what we want. it never should show up here, but what it does is just allows you to have a really clean code. We're gonna add a comment inside of here really quick in our HTML document. Right above the section element, make a quick space, do a less than sign, exclamation point, and 2 hyphens. You've created a comment. What we're going to do is place a comment and say, inside of my section element, I am going to have a left and right side of the element. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to push enter and do the same thing. Then I'm going to say my aside section will consist of information about me and my social media links. And then I will do another comment and say my main section will consist of information about my works and examples accessible to the public who views this website. Do one more comment. I'm going to say include a downloadable resume in the aside section. I'm going to click save, and then we're going to go back into our styling sheet and get ready to style this footer. So in our styling sheet for our footer, let's call the footer element. How do we do that? We're going to do footer, curly brackets, and we've called our footer. Well, let's change something. Let's change the background color first. And of course, I'm going for the dark sea green. And you see your footer is stretched all the way across. So one thing to really pay attention to, once again, is our header has 10 view height and our navigation has 5 view height. Right now we're using about 15 of our total view height to style our website. Well, what we're going to do is set our footer to a height of 5 view height. So now we know that we have a total of 20 view height being in use, which leaves us 80 view height for the rest of our web page, which is more than enough. Let's go ahead and push enter, and then we're going to do the same thing with the display flex. We're going to align the items to the center, which is on the y-axis. And if you push save, you'll see. And then we're going to justify content to the center, push save, and then you'll see our items are in the center. But what we really want to do is change the position of our footer, which is going to be a fixed position. In other words, a fixed position is going to help us, or a fixed position is pretty much saying it's always going to be fixed in this same spot no matter what. Push save, and you'll see our width has went down. That's because we're going to have to style our width or style our footer a little differently. So right under height, let's change our width to 100 view width and click save. So now we can see it went back to its natural elements styling, which is 100% view width, and then how many ever pixels the text is going to be the view height, but we've already changed our view height to 5 view height. So what we want to do is we want to position our footer to the bottom. So what we're going to do is just say on the bottom, push enter, or we're just going to say the word bottom. I should say we're only going to type in the word bottom, put the semicolon, and then put the number 0, because we want it to be 0 margin, 0 padding, 0 height, 0 everything from the bottom. Push enter and save, and then now you have your footer down here on the bottom, and the rest of your elements haven't been affected or anything at all. And what's going to happen is, since this is fixed from the bottom at 0 pixels, this is always going to stay at the bottom. So if we add more information that makes our web page more than 100 view height, that is just going to have the footer stuck at the bottom, and then we're going to be able to scroll through the rest of the information. Now, for this type of web page, it is okay to set that position to the bottom, but in later tutorials, if we ever use this type of styling or type of positioning for our footer, I can show you why we wouldn't want to do that and what a better option would be. So with that being said, we've styled our header, we've styled our navigation items and unordered list, and all we have left is our section. So in the next half of this video, we're going to go over our section and how we can add some information into our sections. And we're going to start with our aside, our main, styling the whole section, and then add some JavaScript in order to make a better looking web page for ourselves. So we see you guys in part 2 of our web development, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript fundamentals videos. Thank you.